The 2-year-old kept pointing at her father's coffin. What happened next was shocking. The heavy toll of the church bells echoed through St. Gabriel's church, a solemn rhythm that mingled with muffled sobs and created an atmosphere thick with mourning. The air was cold, heavy with grief, as townsfolk filled the pews, their faces pale and drawn under the weight of loss. Emma stood silently beside her husband's coffin, her black veil barely concealing the tears streaming down her face. In her arms, she clutched little Lily, her 2-year-old daughter, whose small frame wriggled in distress, her tiny fists pounding against her mother's chest. "Papa, Papa," Lily sobbed, her trembling fingers pointing at the polished oak coffin where Noah, Emma's husband, lay motionless. Emma's throat constricted painfully as she tried to soothe her daughter. Her hands gripped the edge of her black veil, trying to fight back the wave of emotions crashing over her. Just yesterday, Noah had kissed her goodbye before heading to work, his smile still vivid in her mind. And now he was gone. Around her, the murmurs of the gathered mourners filled the church. Some spoke in hushed voices, questioning how a healthy man like Noah could have died so suddenly. Others whispered about fate and misfortune, shaking their heads in disbelief. Among the crowd stood Eleanor, an elderly woman known for her wisdom and kind heart. She stepped forward, her cane tapping softly on the church floor as she reached Emma's side. Gently placing a weathered hand on Emma's shoulder, Eleanor whispered, "My dear, are you sure Lily's all right? She seems unsettled." Emma followed Eleanor's gaze and noticed Lily's wide, teary eyes fixed on a shadowy corner behind the coffin. Before she could speak, Lily let out a piercing cry. "Papa! Papa's trapped. He's calling for help." The crowd gasped. The church's somber air thickened with unease. People exchanged nervous glances, some instinctively making the sign of the cross. Eleanor's eyes widened, and she took a shaky step back. "God help us, the child can see something we cannot." Emma's heart pounded. Her hands trembled as she crouched down to meet Lily's eyes. "Sweetheart, what do you mean? Where's Papa?" Lily's tiny finger jabbed at the dark corner again. "He's there." "He's scared, Mama." Before Emma could process Lily's words, the heavy church doors creaked open. A tall man in a black suit strode in, his polished shoes clicking against the stone floor. It was Victor, Noah's cousin. His face was a mask of practiced sorrow, but his dark eyes held something harder to read. "Emma," Victor spoke in a deep, gentle tone, "you must be exhausted. We're all heartbroken over Noah's passing." Emma offered a slight nod, her energy nearly drained. But Victor's gaze shifted to Lily, who still pointed at the coffin. "Children grieve in strange ways," Victor continued, his voice smooth but laced with an unsettling sharpness. "It's best not to let her stir panic. People might get the wrong idea." Emma stiffened at his words, but tried to remain composed. "She's just a child mourning her father." Victor sighed, his sympathetic facade slipping. "I hate to bring this up now, but Noah left some financial issues behind. The house. Perhaps it's best to consider selling it to clear his debts." Emma's heart sank. "You're already talking about this? He's not even buried yet." "I'm just thinking of you and Lily," Victor said, though there was a cold calculation behind his words. Before Emma could respond, Lily tugged at her sleeve again. "Mama, Papa's still here. He's calling me." Victor's face twitched, just for a moment, but it was enough. Emma's instinct screamed that something was terribly wrong. The whispers around the church grew louder. Eleanor stepped closer, her voice hushed. "Children don't lie about things like this. Sometimes they can see what adults can't." Emma felt her breath catch. Her mind was torn between logic and the unsettling feeling that Lily was right. "Victor," she said firmly, "if there's even the slightest chance Noah isn't." Victor's calm demeanor cracked. "You're letting grief cloud your mind. There's nothing in that coffin but your husband's body." But Lily's small voice cut through his protest. "Papa's knocking, Mama. He's trapped." At that moment, a faint thud echoed from the coffin. The church went still. The sound was soft, but undeniable. People gasped, some backing away from the coffin, their faces pale with terror. Did you hear that?" Eleanor whispered, clutching her rosary. Another thud. Louder this time. Emma's legs nearly gave out beneath her. "Noah." Victor stepped forward quickly. "It's the wood. It's normal, just the coffin settling." But no one believed him. "Open it," someone from the crowd whispered. Victor's face twisted with fury. "No one's opening that coffin." But the growing panic was unstoppable. Emma's hands trembled as she reached for the coffin lid, but Victor lunged at her. "Stop. You don't know what you're doing. Get away from me," Emma shouted, pushing him aside. Suddenly, the church doors burst open again. A man stumbled in, out of breath, his face flushed. It was Ethan, Noah's closest friend. "Emma, don't bury him. There's been a mistake." The entire church gasped. Emma froze, her hands still hovering over the coffin. Ethan struggled to catch his breath. "The doctor who signed Noah's death certificate wasn't from the hospital. I checked. It's a forgery." The crowd erupted into chaos. Emma's mind raced, pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Victor's strange urgency about selling the house, Lily's insistence that Noah was trapped, and now a forged death certificate. She turned to Victor, her eyes blazing. "You did this." Victor's composure shattered. I didn't mean to." Before he could finish, a loud bang echoed from the coffin. "Open it," Emma screamed. With the help of Ethan and another villager, the coffin lid was finally pried open. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Noah's chest rose, barely, but it rose. His skin was ghostly pale, his lips cracked, but he was alive. Emma collapsed in tears, clutching his hand. "Noah, I'm here. We're here." Little Lily scrambled up beside her. "Papa, you're back." The church filled with sobs and gasps of disbelief. Paramedics, summoned in the chaos, rushed Noah to safety. Victor, meanwhile, tried to slip away unnoticed, but the villagers surrounded him. His guilt was undeniable. Soon after, police officers arrived, handcuffing Victor as he screamed about innocence no one believed in. Weeks later, as Noah recovered in the hospital, Emma sat by his side, Lily asleep in her lap. "I heard you," Noah whispered weakly. "When I was trapped, I heard Lily calling me." Emma smiled through her tears. "She saved you." "No," he replied, gripping her hand. "You both did." In the end, justice was served. Victor was sentenced to prison for his crimes. But more importantly, Emma, Noah, and Lily were reunited, stronger than ever, their love unshaken. Because sometimes the pure heart of a child sees what adults refuse to believe. And sometimes love really does conquer all.